Bonjour, welcome to Wahsa Distance Education Center's radio Zoom classes. This is MEL3E, grade 11 workplace math, and I'm Bronwyn Slade. If you'd like to participate live today, you can call the Wahsa studio at 1-800-465-7144 and at 737-4017. You're welcome to listen on the radio at 91.9 FM and on the television at Bell Express View Channel 972. You are always able to join me live through the Zoom link. Whether or not you want to ask me questions or just sit and watch, that's totally fine. The link is available from me, your teacher, and also your DEC. Our classes are scheduled Monday through Thursday from 9 till 10 in the morning. And we are in our 8th week of our 9-week course. This is the last week that we're having new material. In our 9th week, we will just be reviewing the entire course to prepare you and set you up for success for your final culminating activity. So the last day to submit your work is June 10th, which is not this Friday, but next Friday. So again, this week is the last week that there'll be new material. So by today we're doing lesson 19 and our next class will do lesson 20. And then you'll have learned all of the course material. So you have lots of time to get all of your work in for next Friday, June 10th. But remember, you also have a culminating assignment, which needs to be completed as well. So a reminder that the support questions are the ones with the pencil icon, and they're not for marking. They are the practice problems to set you up for success. So you decide which ones and how many to do. If you understand concepts, please feel free to skip questions. You don't need to spend your time on something you already know. But if you need more practice, please ask for more practice. I'm happy to send you and support you with that. However, the key questions, the ones with the little key icon, are the ones to submit for marking. So these ones, you need to do all of them so I can give you credit for all of your understanding. And it's best to show all of your work, your steps, and your thinking, opposed to just giving me a final answer. This means that I get more information about what you might be struggling with, but also I can figure out if you are misunderstanding the entire concept and therefore don't have any understanding and will get 0, or if you have an understanding and you are just making an error or partial understanding and I can give you part marks. So show me as much as you can. There are 3 different methods to submit your work. The first is to scan and send your work in electronically. So if you have a smart device, you can scan using it. Either the iPhone Notes app or the Android Google Drive app both have scan functions that are fairly straightforward. And you can then send that to me. You also can take pictures if that's what works better for you. If you don't have a smart device or scanning just isn't working for you, pictures are fine. They're just larger files and a little bit more awkward, but it's totally fine. Then you can either send it to me through email and studentwork@nnec.on.ca and CC it to me, bronwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca. Or you can also send it to me through Facebook Messenger, where my name is B. Slate Wahsa. The second method is to drop it off into Lookout. We have an outdoor mailbox at our location 74 Front Street. We're the bright red building next to the post office, and there is a small white mailbox next to our side entrance. So you can just put it there at any time. We continue to be closed to the public, but if you can put that in there at all hours and look at it and get it back to you as soon as I can, though at this point it's taking me a bit longer to get things back to you because there's just so much to do at year end. And then the third method is to hand it into your DEC, and your DEC can either send your work through the Express or fax it to 807-737-1732 or toll-free fax to 1-800-463-7852. If you'd like to connect with me through social media, both my Facebook and my YouTube channel are under the name B. Slate Wahsa, so you can find me there. And all of our radio Zoom classes are recorded and I upload them to YouTube every week. And I share them on Facebook, so you can find it through there. There's also videos that I've made of common errors and confusing concepts. So if you're struggling with something, that might be a good place to go first to see if a sort of foundational concept is explained there that might help you with your course material. Math is an incredibly visual subject. Just listening to it on air is going to only give you a small piece of the information. So I strongly encourage you to access the the videos, either joining me live through Zoom or watching them on YouTube. If you can't do either of those options, let me know and I can send you a copy of the videos so that you still are set up for success. If you have any questions or concerns, you need to talk to me before the deadline of June 10th to talk about getting your work in and the culminating assignment, please reach out. My email address, again, is bronwyn.slate@nnec.on.ca. My Facebook is bslate.wahsa. My phone number is 807-737-1488, extension 2209, or toll free 1-800-667-3703. Please reach out if you need to. I'm connecting with people, but if I don't know that you're working on it, then I might not reach out to you. All right, so we are doing lesson 19 today, which is reading charts and schedules. So our learning goals for this lesson. At the end of this lesson, you'll be able to interpret and describe information regarding routes, schedules, and fares for travel by airplane, train, or bus. You will understand how to compare costs in regards to travel. You know you've met these learning goals because you can find schedules and fares for buses, trains, planes, and public transportation, and you can explain the fares, schedules, routes, maps, and various other components of travel. All right, but let's first activate our brain and do some mental math. So I don't believe in just memorization of facts. I think that knowing your facts is helpful, but understanding your facts is essential. So we work on strategies that set us up for success so that we can use them in various situations. Our question today is 28 plus 47, and we're breaking it up by place value. So generally people just stack these and add them by individual columns and aren't really thinking about the numbers as a whole. This is doing something very similar, but thinking of the numbers as a whole. So 28 is 20 plus 8. That's how we get 28. That's breaking it up into 20s and 1s. 47 is 40 plus 7. So if we add up our place values, so 20 plus 40 is 60, and 8 plus 7, well, we can use another strategy, which is doubles, or near doubles. So 7 plus 7 is 14. So one more than that is 15. And so then we have 60 plus 15. So that is equal to 75. So 28 plus 47 is equal to 75. Again, you don't have to write this all down. I'm just writing it down so you can see what I'm doing, but you could just do this mentally. You could just do, well, 20 plus 40 is 60, 8 plus 7 is 15, so 60 plus 15 is 75. That's exactly what I just did, both verbally and written. You don't have to write it down every time but you totally can. There's no rules and there's no best way. The best way is what works for you. Okay, so mine's on. What do we need to know? So I wanted to just go over the 24-hour clock. Often in schedules for transportation, things are written in 24-hour clock. So being able to understand that is really important so that you can actually meet a schedule, or you can understand when things are coming and you don't miss your bus or your plane or something like that. So we have 24 hours in a day. Generally, we talk about morning hours with AM and afternoon hours with PM is sort of the basic way that we talk. Makes most sense for us, but we could instead saying that the afternoon hours are hours 13, 14, 15, 16, and just continuing and thinking of the day as 24 hours as a whole unit instead of broken up into two halves. So that means that sometimes our time is in different, could have your AM and your PM, or it could have be in 24-hour clocks and be numbers that you might not recognize. So basically what we need to do is that any hours that are in the afternoon, we need to add 12 to, right? So afternoon, because we've already had 12 hours in the morning. So we're adding 12 to the hours. we are changing from AM PM time to 24-hour clock. So here we're just going to a couple examples. So 7:35 a.m. that is in the morning, so that is still 7:35. 5:16 p.m. that's in the afternoon, so we need to add 12 to the hours. So I add 12 to 5, so that's going to be 17:16. Means that it's 5 o'clock in the 5:16 in the afternoon, evening. 10:17 p.m. So we had 12 p.m. We add 12 to the 10, so then we have 22:17. 12:50 p.m. add to 12 to the 2 hours is 14:50. 1:35 p.m. add 12 to the 1, 13:35. 8:41 p.m. still p.m. so we add 12 to the 8, so that's 20:41, and it takes practice. 11:35 a.m. that's a.m. that's the morning, so we still that's still 11:35. 3:40 a.m. that's in the morning, so that's still 3:40. 12:06 a.m. that is in the morning, so it's still 12:06. Yeah, that's how we convert from AM PM time to 24-hour clock. If we are going backwards, that means that we need to subtract 12 hours if it's in the afternoon. So 5:25, well, because it's under 12, that means that it is, right, so if it's under 12, that tells us that it's in the morning, so that means that this is still 5:25 a.m. It's the morning. 12:28 is going to be, if we are, so that one's a tricky one because it's like, is that one morning or afternoon? So how I look at it, and I say, okay, well, here we have 00:57, so that's telling me that that is first thing in the morning. It's the middle of the night, so that's 12:57 a.m. So that means that here I don't want to subtract this. This is just 12:08 p.m. So around noon and midnight are tricky. So you need to sort of use your brain as well. 22:47 take away. So to figure that out, that's above 12. So that means I'm going to take away 12 from 22. So that gives me 10:47 p.m. 15:10. So that's above 12. So take away 12 is going to be 3:10 p.m. 18:42 above 12. So take 12 away from 18 is 6:42 p.m. 09:48. Well, that's just in the morning. So that's 9:48 a.m. 13:31. That's about greater than 12. So that's going to be 1:31 p.m. 16:22. That's greater than 12. So 4:22 p.m. That's how you convert it back to AM PM time. So it's not super tricky, but it does take practice, and it does take just a little bit of brain thought. So you can do it. Just make sure that you're paying a bit of attention. All right. So what is new? What are we learning about today? We are learning how to see the whole picture. So when you're traveling, you kind of need to look at the bigger picture. You need to look at all the components. And generally in life, that's what we've been looking at in this course in general, putting together all the little pieces, but so we can see the bigger picture of everything that's going on. So we're going to be looking at buses, trains, and planes. So this is on page 34 of your IEL booklet. So with buses, trains, and planes, there are schedules, and you need to be able to read charts and schedules and understand how it works. So when you're traveling, it is essential to be able to interpret charts and schedules, as well as the costs associated with different methods of travel. In order to understand if this is going to work for you, you need to, it's a bigger picture. You can't, it's written out in a very specific way in terms of charts and schedules. So you need to be able to interpret those. So some things to consider: departure and arrival times may be in 24-hour clocks. So that's why we just went over that. Times are based on the local time zone. So we talked about time zones in our last lesson a little bit, but that's something to be aware of, is that it's talking about the time of where it's actually leaving or departing. So be conscious of that. You may be going over time. You're maybe changing time zones, and that means the duration might look too long or too short in comparison to your times, but that's because you still spend the same amount of time traveling, but it's just that your clock changes because you're jumping time zones. Prices may be per person, they may be one way, or they may have additional fees. So that's you need to be aware of as you're looking at fares and prices. Taxes are based on the local province or territory. So if you're buying something when you're in Ontario and you're leaving Ontario, then your tax is going to be based on Ontario. If you are then flying to BC and returning from BC, then the taxes are going to be based on the flight, or you're in BC, you're going to be, the taxes are based on BC taxes. So you just need to be aware of that prices might look different because of the taxes. And then also you need to be aware of stops, transfers, or layovers. Buses, trains, and planes all sometimes stop, and you might need to transfer into a different method of transportation or a different bus or something. So that you have to be able to read that information off of your schedule or your chart. Okay, so first we're going to look at some buses. I found the Casper bus website. In this day and age, pretty much everything is online to find that information. So being able to get access to the internet is really, really important. There are probably phone numbers that you can call and talk to people, but you also, you'd have to look them up online, basically. So we're super dependent upon the internet. So for the Casper bus, it's gocasper.com is the website. The phone number is 1-855-566-2378. And then you can talk to them if you prefer to call opposed to look online. So here is one of the Casper routes where you can go from Sioux Lookout to Red Lake or from Sioux Lookout to Winnipeg. I couldn't find a map that shows that you can go from Sioux Lookout to Thunder Bay, but you can. So we are going to go quickly to their website. So here you can see that you can book a ticket, charter, track shipment, look at the schedule, and they give you a list of the current buses in progress and where they're at, how that's going. So if we wanted to look at the schedule, I'm going to click over here on schedule, and they give you information. We're not going to read all the information, but it's good to read that information. We're just jumping through. So here it shows you can pick the different routes. So if you want to go from Long Lac to Thunder Bay, or from Thunder Bay to Long Lac, you can do that. If you want to go to Thunder Bay to Sioux Lookout, from Sioux Lookout to Thunder Bay, let's click there. We're going to click on there, and we can see this schedule. So it says from, so where you are starting. And so you can start in Thunder Bay at 947 Memorial Avenue. That's where the Casper bus picks you up. And it departs at 8 a.m. Central Time, which is 9 a.m. Eastern Time, which is in Thunder Bay, 9 a.m. So the fact that Casper gives you both times is really unique. I don't see that very many places. Usually they just tell you the time where you're departing from. But I guess because they do work so much in the two different time zones that they give both informations. And then it tells you the first stop is in Kakabeka, and the arrival time, they tell you both in Central and in Eastern Time, 8:21 Central, 9:21 Eastern. So that's the first stop. So then you can continue to see that then they leave at 8:23 or 9:23 and go to Upsala. And then that continues to Upsala, then they go to Ignace, and they go to Norwich, they go to Sioux Lookout. Then Sioux Lookout, they stop at Tim Hortons, and that happens at 12:57 local time. And then they also go to the hospital, which so that they arrive there at 13:02. So that's 1:02 p.m. And then they have a break. And then they pick up from the hospital half an hour later and go back to Tim Hortons and then reverse. You can then see that they go back to the exact same places, stop at the exact same places later in the day, and then arrive in Thunder Bay at 1948, which is 7:48 local time. So that, and then up here you can see that it says every day. This happens every day that someone drives this route, starting in Thunder Bay, driving to Sioux Lookout, stopping at various places, driving back from Sioux Lookout to Thunder Bay. So that's how you would read that chart. And again, that was just the one route, right? So there's other routes that are the same. You click on them. If we're going from Winnipeg to Sioux Lookout or Sioux Lookout to Winnipeg, this says it's every day except for Sunday. So that's good to know. Can't travel on Sunday. They just have Central Time because both locations are in Central. You can also click on a map so they can show you where that actually is. But then again, they list all of the where you're going and then going back. So that is just good to know. You can also, oh yeah, it's the Thunder Bay. That's why I was like, it's the same. But no, it's, yeah, no, they arrive in Sioux Lookout at the hospital at the same time. So you could transfer buses if you wanted to. You could go from Thunder Bay to Sioux Lookout and then from Sioux Lookout to Winnipeg in the same day if both of them were on time, because you can look at the schedule. You say that they meet up. Their lunch break is at the same time in the same place. So they meet up and then they drive in opposite directions. So that is the Casper bus, which is the only public bus that you can get in Sioux Lookout. There used to be Greyhound, but it no longer runs in Northwestern Ontario. So the Greyhound bus, I'm just going to show you because if you are in other places, the Greyhound bus is a good option, but it no longer runs in Northwestern Ontario and it's much more limited. It's pretty good for US. It's really focused on the states now, but you can see that the black lines are where there are remaining buses in Southern Ontario. But all the red line here is it's abandoned. It's no longer Greyhound routes in Canada. They don't work. But then the US, you can see there's lots. So greyhound.ca/EN for English. In Canada, you want it to get the Canadian ones because you want Canadian prices if you are going to go there. You're already going to use that. And again, how this works is that you put in your city or your state. So if you're going, say you're going from Toronto, so then you click Toronto, Ontario to New York. New York. It gives you a little bit of information about, because you're crossing the border. And you used to be able to, you needed vaccination reports, but you don't need that currently. So then you put in your departure, the day you want to leave, and if you want to return, you can put a return trip. I'm just going to say we're going to leave. We're just going to go to New York. And then they give you a list of buses. So they leave at 8:30 a.m. and arrive at 8:30 p.m. So it's a 12-hour straight bus. There's no transfer. So then you can view the itinerary and it tells you where you go. So you start in Toronto, you end up in Buffalo, then Rochester, and Syracuse, and then New York. Those are the stops, but you don't need to transfer for that bus. Here you can see that it is 11:35 a.m. and you get there at 12:25 a.m. So it's 12 hours and 50 minutes, but so you're changing your day. You're going over the day. If you want to travel in the middle of the night, then or in the afternoon into the night. Again, you look at the itinerary, but no transfers. They're still on the same bus. So that continues various ways. There's various options over the course of to go from Toronto to New York. And you can pick different rates depending on what you want, and you can click on these little things and they tell you in terms of how many, if it's refundable, how much luggage you get, if there's any fees for changing your bus ticket if you need to. So it's good to always consider what makes the most sense for you. So that's how you can look at the schedule. Oh, and then you can also pick a different, if you don't like any of those times, you can pick a different day that's close by and see if there's better times. Often with buses, I find that they are exactly the same. They travel the same every day. They do the same route. It's very routine. So that's Greyhound bus. All right, and then train. So the Via Rail train has reopened. I've seen passenger trains in Sioux Lookout, so that is great. So in Canada, you can take the Via Rail from Sioux Lookout. You can go either west all the way out to Vancouver, through Edmonton, through Winnipeg, through Edmonton, or you can go east and go to Toronto. Then there are from other locations, you can go other places. So you can go from Winnipeg up to Churchill, you can go from Jasper up to Prince Rupert. From Toronto, you can go southwestern to Niagara Falls or Windsor, or you can go northeast to Montreal, and then you can even go out to Moncton or Halifax with another on the train. So there's lots of options. There's not lots of options, really. You can go particular places. So then going to here, so if we're going to go from Sioux Lookout, so you put in Sioux Lookout, and then you want to go to Toronto Union Station. We can pick the number of passengers so that we can say, okay, we can do different depending on if we have an infant, child, youth, senior, adult. They give you the age ranges, and you can click who is traveling. A youth, say we're going. You can pick the day that you are leaving. Say we're leaving tomorrow. Say we're not returning, or we don't know when we're returning. And then you go to search. So then here it says, I said pick June 1st, and they said there's not actually available. There's no train on June 1st. It's offered. The next one is June 2nd. So on June 2nd, they show you that. So the train doesn't come every day. But the train is generally at 6:51. It leaves Sioux Lookout and it arrives on June 3rd. So it arrives the next day at 14:29, which is 2:29 in the afternoon. The duration, you can see that it's 1 day, 6 hours and 38 minutes. Often these websites things, they have pop-ups to say, do you want to talk to somebody? I'm saying, no, you could if you wanted to ask questions or if they could help you. So there's not a big schedule for leaving from Sioux Lookout for the train. The train, there's much limited options for the train. But then there's various fares you can pick. If you want economy, you're just having a seat. If you want a sleeper car, with what's included, you can do that. But it's significantly more money. It's $771 for one person to take that trip. If you have a berth, or opposed to $220 for just having a chair. So you decide what works best for you. But the schedules, looking at the schedule chart, that's just there. There's not a ton of different options for the train. But at least the train's running, which is great. And then we have planes. So there are tons of different plane options. So locally, there's more, but but Wahsa is one local option. So Wahsa's website, here you can put in either the code, every airport has a code, or you can pick the name. So say that we want to go from Queewin and we want to go to Paganchicum. Sure. When are you traveling? So when are you leaving? And here it looks like I can't select any days. So that means that probably I can't actually go from Queewin to Paganchicum. I would guess that maybe you have to go to Sioux Lookout and then to Paganchicum, but I thought that we could maybe transfer. So let's say that we're going to go from QA1 to Red Lake. Can I do that? Yes. So we can see, you pick that. And now I can see that it goes on Mondays because that's the only days that are showing up. So I can, all the other days I can't select. That means that there's no flights those days. So I can go to Monday and I can come back on a Friday. Any passengers are traveling, so adults, children, infants. So we say an infant and an adult. We search. Thinks, and then it's giving us information. So it's showing us the days. Here it's saying that there's only a Monday. There's no flights on the days around it. And it's a direct flight. It's 25 minutes. So from QA1, you leave at 11:35 and the 25-minute flight, and it's direct. So there's no stops. You arrive in Red Lake at 12. So 12 at noon. Then you can select your fare. So Econo is sold out for that fare, for that ticket, that date. So you can't do that. So then you can select the fare. Here it tells us the total. So here it says total for all passengers, which is really useful. Sometimes it's hard to tell if you're doing it for one passenger or all passengers. So then you select your fare and you continue. And now to come back, you can come at 17:55 is when you leave Red Lake, which is 5:55. It's still a 25-minute flight. It's still direct. It tells you the flight number and when you arrive in QA1 and how much that costs. So it's a little bit more to come back. I don't know why. It is what it is. So I selected that, and then it gives you a summary. So it tells you the cost of the tickets, the extra fees, and then the total flight costs. And remember, we did 2 people, so it tells us, it doesn't tell us anywhere that it's 2 people. So then you can continue and you put in your booking information and your passenger information. So again, this is the depending on your options, there's not necessarily a lot of options. You have to figure out if there are options or not. So if we go to Bearskin, similarly, you do the same thing. So come on, website, work for me, please. Right, Bearskin's not working. We're not going to wait. But same idea. Then you can also do nationally if you're flying not just from northern communities into Sioux Lookout, but you want to fly from Sioux Lookout or from a larger place, so Air Canada. Again, are you going round trip, one way, multi-city? Does that mean you're going to go to multiple places? Where are you starting from? So let's say you're starting from Winnipeg. Where you're going to, let's say you're going to Edmonton. I'm just picking Canadian places. When do you want to leave? My favorite thing is that they give us a calendar. And when you're coming back, I'm just picking random dates. And there's just one passenger, sure. So then it's thinking. Up here you can see, I've just noticed it says English, US dollars. So this, and even here you can say it says US dollars. So these prices are in US. I don't know why it defaulted. It maybe is a mistake in terms of where I linked. But I would like it in Canadian dollars. So I'm going to click here on the US dollar thing and scroll up to Canada. I'm going to do Canadian dollars. So there. And now they're going to make me search again. They don't just convert it. They make you search again. So make sure that it's in Canadian dollars. Luckily, they have flag to help so you notice. So now it doesn't say CA, it just says dollars, but it's in Canadian dollars because it says up here Canadian dollars and it's a Canadian business. So it makes sense that it's Canadian dollars. So you can see that on different days. So if like you can look and compare and say, oh, well, if I were to travel just on the Wednesday instead of the Tuesday, I could save $35. Is that something that's worth it? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. But you can see that if I were to travel on the Monday, it's $426 instead of $397. So you can compare a little bit in terms of what makes sense. Then looking at the charts, you can say, okay, they organize them by what they think. They sort it by recommended. So you can sort it by the earliest departure with the shortest trip, the lowest price, depending on what the earliest arrival, depending on what you need. But they give you the recommended. They decide this is their best option. I don't know why, but that's what they do. So maybe it's a combination of price and time and number of stops. So you can see when you leave Winnipeg, when you arrive at Edmonton, that there's one stop, it says here, and you're stopping at YYC. I don't know where that is. I don't have them all memorized. You can look at it here and it says, okay, YYC is Calgary. So you stop in Calgary, but it says that it's one stop. It's not a transfer. So you're there for 40 minutes, but you don't believe you have to get off and transfer. I think it's just that they're picking people up. But it might be that you have to change planes actually, because here it says, look like you got a new plane. So it looks like you have to transfer. It's not just you have 40 minutes to transfer from one plane to another plane. So that's good to know, because you make assumptions. You don't want to make assumptions. So that's stressful. To me, 40 minutes doesn't feel like very much time. I would rather wake up earlier in the day and have an hour and 10 minutes. I'd rather wait. That is me. Might not be you, might not work for your family. Totally understandable. You do what makes sense for you. So here you can see how that it changes depending on when you're going to, how long you're going to be laid over in Calgary. Here, this one, you're going from Winnipeg to Vancouver and then back to Edmonton. So that gives you different information. You can look again. This little thing seems to tell me that you have Wi-Fi when you're going from Winnipeg to Vancouver, but from Vancouver to Edmonton, you don't have Wi-Fi. So there's lots of different little images and information that you can pick up that can take some practice. And all that information is super important. It's okay to not know. Here, this one, look, we're going from Winnipeg, then we go to Calgary, and then we go to Vancouver, and then we go to Edmonton. So you have a bunch of stops, and possibly if we go to details, you can see, do we have to change planes every time? So we're starting on Air Canada 8335. So that tells me that's the flight, that's the plane that we're on. And then from Calgary, we get onto Air Canada 217. So that's a new plane. And then in Vancouver, we're on Air Canada 242. That's a new plane, I think. It might not be a new plane. It's a new flight number, but it's the same plane type of plane. So it might not be. I don't know. So you may need to transfer twice, or this may be just stopping and picking up new people. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I would have to look into that more. So it can be daunting, but there's lots of information. And if you have questions, you can call customer support and ask if you need to. And then there's also travel services like Expedia.ca, Skyscanner, Cheap-O-Air. I don't know Skyscanner or Cheap-O-Air, but they're both just things that are out there, which will compare. So you can just search Expedia and you can say, I want to go from here to here, and they'll pull you flights from Air Canada, from WestJet, from Porter, and they will help you decide which is best. They might be more expensive because you're going from a travel service opposed to just directly the airplane, the air company. So you decide what works best for you. So here is, I just did a screenshot of one from St. John's to Halifax, so you could look at the details, but we looked at those details directly on the website. Okay, so let's do a couple of examples of interpreting this information. So here we're going to look at Casper. So we're looking at a bus. Where do you get picked up in Sioux Lookout and at what time? So we're looking on this here and we say, okay, here, Sioux Lookout, Tim Hortons. So Tim Hortons is where we're getting picked up. We are getting picked up at 13:49. So 13:49. And so that is 1:49 p.m. I'm someone who always converts it into AM, PM. That's what makes sense to me. And then where do you get dropped off in Kakabeka? So again, we're looking, okay, at the Esso station. So this is important to know if someone is picking you up or dropping you off, you need to know where it is in your plant, your places, and at what time. You're arriving at 1923, which 19 take away 12 is 7:23 p.m. And then here you could, so then how many people are traveling? So over here, this tells us we have an adult, a child, and a senior. So 3 people traveling. And how many stops does the bus make? So here, now here we can see, okay, we started at Sioux Lookout, then we go to Norwich, so that's 1 stop. At this time, then we go to Ignace, that's another stop, Uppsala, and then Kakabeka. So there's 3 stops between Sioux Lookout and Kakabeka. That's how you can interpret the schedule for bus. Okay, so now let's look at a second example. This is the train. I forgot to put the via, but this is the train. I was picking and choosing different pieces so that we could see how many people are traveling. So here we're gonna have to look, it's here, it says 4 passengers. And we can see here, we have passenger 1, 2, and 3. We have an adult, youth, and a child that have various rates, but we have 4 passengers here. So here we can see infant travels free on parent's lap. For your comfort on long trips, we recommend to select child instead in order to book a seat for your baby. The child's fare will apply. So you can choose if you have a baby and you don't think they need a seat, then you don't have to pay for them. But if you do think that it would be best for them to have a seat, then you can choose child even though they're under 2. And then you would pay $306 for this route that from Winnipeg to Vancouver is what I chose. So that's important information to realize. So there's 4 people traveling, even though we're paying only 3 fares. Does every passenger pay the same amount? Nope. Adults and youth. So it's $612. Child is $306, half price, and infant is free. If you're paying that much, you might not want to just have a seat for an infant. Everybody might have a turn holding the baby. Right, so then what time do you leave Winnipeg? So here we are leaving from Winnipeg to Vancouver. So we leave Winnipeg at 21:30. So 21:30. So that is taking away 12 from that is 9:30 p.m. How long are you on the train? So here it says 2 days, 12 hours, and 30 minutes is your duration. So duration is how long? 2 days, 12 hours, 30 minutes. Does that make sense? So let's see, we arrive at 8 a.m. on June 9th. We left on June 6th. So June 9th, that means that, so we're traveling June 7th. This is in the evening. So June 9th in the evening. Sorry, June 6th in the evening. So June 7th, June 8th. We are traveling. So those are 2 days. And then to go from, then we have 8 hours on the morning of June 9th. And from 21:30, so that's 9 p.m. So 30 minutes, that makes sense. So do we still have 4 hours? Well, from 9, so from, if we ignore the 30 minutes, it's 3 hours from 9 till midnight. But so this is what you have to remember, the time change. So yes, it makes sense due to time zones, right? Because you're crossing time zones. So it doesn't quite line up because you're crossing time zones. So what time do you leave Vancouver? So we leave Vancouver at 15 o'clock, which is 3 p.m. And we arrive at Then it says, why does it take longer to come back? Because it takes 2 days and 5 hours. It doesn't. Sorry, my bad. It takes longer to drive there. So it doesn't take longer is the answer to this question that I'm asking. So I interpret it wrong. Right? Because it's 2 days and 5 hours on the way back, where it was 2 days, 12 hours and 30 minutes. So why do you think that they're different times? It can be dependent upon what else is going on with trains. Passenger trains have to stop and wait sometimes for like freight trains to go by. And so maybe when we're going to Vancouver, there are more places that we have to stop and wait. Okay, in example 3, let's look at some flight times. So why are there 2 departure times from flying from Bearskin Lake to Thunder Bay? So from Bearskin Lake, we leave at 11:20 and arrive in Thunder Bay at 19:20, which is 7:20. But here you can see flight 1 departure, 11:20, and flight 2 departure, 17:30. So that is 5:30. So you're stopping in Sioux Lookout, right? You have to go to Sioux Lookout and you have a 4-hour and 55-minute layover in Sioux Lookout before you can fly from Sioux Lookout to Thunder Bay. So because you have a layover. In Sioux Lookout. And why are there 3 different fares? So there's 3 different fares depending on those details, remember? Which in terms of like, do you need different deals? So they're different needs. Do you have lots of luggage? Do you need it to be refundable? So you pick what makes the most sense for you. And why are there 2 different departure times, but the same arrival time when flying from Thunder Bay to Bearskin? So you can see that Bearskin, we arrive back at 14:45 both times, but these are 2 different flight options. And one time you can leave Thunder Bay at 13 o'clock and another time you can leave Thunder Bay at 8:30. So it's because you have a different layover in Sioux Lookout. You're both flying to Sioux Lookout. Here in the longer one, you have an 8-hour layover. So if you want to be in Sioux Lookout and visit somebody, that might work better for you. Whereas here, this one, you only have a 30-minute layover in Sioux Lookout. So if you really want to just fly from Thunder Bay to Bearskin, then maybe that's a better option because then you're not waiting at the airport for 8 hours. So your layover time is different. And then is $624.90 your final cost? So no, there's going to be more. There's going to be taxes and fees on. So flights always have more things afterwards. So just be wary of that. And then finally, find the differences. What are the ways that these 9 flights differ? It's kind of hard to see, but they have different. They're all going from Montreal to Iqaluit, but you can see that they have different departure times and different arrival times. They have different stops depending on their layover stops, which we've looked at. And sometimes they have 2 stops. Sometimes they have 1 stop, sometimes they have 2 stops. They stop in different places. Sometimes they have Wi-Fi, sometimes they don't have Wi-Fi. The prices are different. So there's lots of different things to consider when you're flying different places. So I didn't write them down, but those are the various things that you want to look at when you are looking at these schedules. All right, so now I can do the support questions on page 36 to 38, questions 1 through 3. Those are the support questions for this unit. I wanted to look at public transportation as well as a bonus, but we don't have time to. So we will maybe look a little bit about that in our next lesson. We will look at it in our next lesson. We'll see if we have time to look at these schedules as well. So let's consolidate. So we looked at modes of transportation in terms of buses, trains, and planes. We didn't get to look at public transportation. The things to consider were fares. There are taxes and extra fees sometimes. To look at the schedules with the departure and arrival times, understanding routes and maps, which isn't as much. It's a little bit important in terms of some of those things, but more or less more about public transportation. And stops, transfers, layovers, and duration are all things to be paying attention to. So hopefully you can now find where these schedules and fares are and are able to understand it. We're going to be looking at more at fares in our next lesson, but we can find the websites and you can explain the different fares, schedules, routes, maps, and other various components of travel. So we didn't really look at fares today. Fares we'll look at again, at next time. That shouldn't be in here. So if you have any questions and concerns, hopefully you're now able to find those different methods of travel for you. So please reach out as always if you want to chat. My number is 807-737-1488, extension 2209, or toll free 1-800-667-3703. You can email me at bronwyn.slate, and that's spelled BRONWYN.SLATE@nnec.on.ca. You can Facebook me at B-Slate Wahsa and find all of our lessons on YouTube at B-Slate Wahsa. There's a playlist called MEL3E where all of our lessons are found. Again, we are wrapping up the end of our course. We're getting pretty close to the end of the term. So please reach out and hand in work as soon as you can in order to be successful in this credit. Have a lovely day. Thanks for joining me. Miigwech.